So I'm going to call this to order. It is now 7:12 or thereabouts. And I think Sue said she was going to do the minutes, so she'll follow up on the video. We have Ms. Shea is present, and Councilors Ryan and Mevis and myself are present, and Denise indicated she cannot be here tonight. So we have a quorum. Let's see. Item number 3, consider and accept GenGov minutes of April 13th. Any comments or questions on those? Do you have a motion, first of all?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any comments or questions on them? No? Okay. All those in favor? Okay. GenGov subcommittee minutes of May 4th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any questions or comments? No? Okay. All those in favor? Yeah, good.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I abstained because I wasn't there.
Okay. Number 5, discuss and review the town manager's recommendation to appoint Evelyn Rivera as municipal hearing officer for a 1-year term effective July 1st, 23 through June 30th of 24.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions?
This is just normal, as I remember. This is just, she's our hearing officer for like the few hearings that she does, and this is just standard protocol. We have to reappoint the person every single year.
Well, it is. I mean, yeah, she has been doing it for quite a few years.
Yeah, she's been the only one who's been doing it, I think, for the last decade.
Pretty close to it.
Yeah, and I've never heard any problems.
I haven't either.
I haven't heard anybody else who wanted the job either.
No. So, congratulations, Evelyn, if you're watching.
All those in favor? Okay. Item number 6, discuss and review a cable department transfer request of $5,880 from miscellaneous materials to other legal to cover lost service invoices.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Is there anybody here to talk about this issue?
I just have a technical question.
Hello? Anybody?
I'm here if you have a question.
Oh, you are here. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see. So can you just summarize this particular issue there, John?
It's just, the contract that's pretty much ready to get signed. The lawyers are working on it. But that's just to cover the cost of their services, which are depleted right now in the lawyer.
The line item?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just need to transfer the funds so that it covers, and actually the amount is so that we can make it to fiscal year. So it's also May and June. So,
Okay.
yeah, so that's why the amount it is.
So it's a year and 2 months.
Do you figure that it'll finish off, that we will actually be able to finish off the contracting negotiations?
I
before the end
believe
of
so,
this
yeah.
year?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, there we go. Mike?
I think you just asked the same question. So we do have a contract with Charter?
We do.
We haven't gotten it, it hasn't come back to us for approval.
No, it's waiting. There's a few things that we had, Denise actually had pointed out. There's a couple lines that were in the current contract that just came to us from the previous
Yep.
that they're hoping to just kind of iron out. But the town manager has already sent an email to the lawyer to have them look into this and see if that language will be in the current contract, and then
Okay.
it'll come up to you guys for
Okay.
approval.
So we'll probably see it next Wednesday then?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Any further questions or comments? No? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, thank you. Let's see here. Item number 7, discuss and review a human resources transfer request of $9,600 from Town Council Reserve to recruitment to cover recruitment expenses, including pre-employment physicals and job ads.
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay. Is that you, Christine?
It's actually Adriana.
Is she's not here?
She's
though,
not here,
so-
but I can speak to it.
Okay, please.
Currently, there's 2 invoices that were unable to pay due to the current recruitment budget being spent. So there's no funds available for the recruitment because we've had to recruit above and beyond the anticipated staffing levels.
Right.
As previously spoken about, Adriana had talked about it previously, the cost for recruitment for firefighters and police go well above and beyond
Oh, yeah.
the
Yeah.
normal staffing. The normal staff for like the town
Right.
are, a few $100s. When it comes to the recruitment of the firefighters and police, you're looking at a few $1,000s.
Yeah, I know.
And due to staffing levels and recruitment and having to backfill positions from from them leaving.
Yep.
We've just had an overabundance of recruitments that we couldn't
Right.
have planned for over this
Right.
last fiscal year. So this is just to cover the current, there's 2 invoices for ComfortCare, which is that's where the physicals are, the invoices for the physicals.
Right.
And then several recruitment ads that we have, but this should cover us through the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. Any other questions, Mike?
And then there's
Oh,
it's
fine.
also a spreadsheet that she supplied us back
Mhm.
to support all the
Right,
costs.
yeah.
I was just wondering what, I see by your expense report that a certain amount of money was spent in December or January, February, and I was just wondering what recruitments did we do during those periods? I see one that you have actually description, a firefighter, 3 standard and 2 DOT, 6 regular, the other ones are just blank, so I was wondering who did we hire during those periods?
Adriana would have to speak to that.
Okay.
Adriana filled out this form.
And then the estimate buffer.
We're just that's a $200 buffer just in case we might have missed anything with the estimates.
DPW deputy director, we have not hired that, but
Nope.
in money.
There's a $300 estimate for his fiscal.
Okay, thank
And
you.
is that currently in process of hiring?
Adriana would need to speak to that.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Okay. Okay, let's see. Item number 8, transfer request of $5,000 from council reserve to special services audit to cover additional charges incurred doing compliance testing for 6 major federal grant programs for fiscal '22, single audit. Instead of the normal 3 to 4 as normally budgeted. Second. Okay. Can you talk about that one too, Christine?
Yes,
Okay.
so as backup is the invoice that is an adjusted invoice. Our normal audit services were estimated at $37,500, which is what our original auditor had said the invoice was going to be.
Right.
Due to ARPA and other grants being flagged for a large audit compliance, more grants were audited as part of our single audit, which raised the invoice to $42,500. So we only budgeted $37,500 because that's what we were told the audit invoice was gonna be. But because of the large audit expanse from the 3 to 4 to the, actually instead of the 3 to 4, there were large 6 for the federal grants.
Right.
It raised the invoice to $42,500 instead.
Okay. Do you happen to know what issues they found regarding ARPA?
There weren't any issues, but
Good.
because everybody that was awarded ARPA got flagged to have 6 federal grant audited instead of the 3 to 4.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
ARPA was included in that audit.
Oh, okay, okay.
So there weren't any issues, it was just because the towns were awarded audit, the ARPA grant was included in that audit.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
And then it just raised the number of grants being audited to 6
Okay.
instead of 3 to 4.
Okay, good. Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, Christine reached out to me about utilizing ARPA funds to pay for this, because ARPA was part of that whole program. The thing is, right now, what we did is we did an operational pause, waiting for the curbside and a few other things, and I said, if the council wants to, we're not gonna probably meet again until July anyways, but at that point in time, if there was a rush to get this $5,000, we'll have a ARPA meeting and give up the $5,000 that way. But the fact is, we have money in the council reserves,
Right, right.
so it's easily spent,
Yeah, yeah.
or allocated, I should not say spent.
Same thing. Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. So the ARPA grant was just one grant, caused 6 audits?
Correct.
Well, how come?
I would have to talk to the auditor and have that clarified.
Okay.
Can I make an assumption
I think I
on
can
that
do
to the chair?
Chair.
On,
Go ahead.
just Councilor Marquette's point, it's a good valid point. The fact is, all these money, instead of you're not opening up a checkbook and saying, here's your $250,000, it all, federal funds, contracts have to happen, everything has to be in place. And so I'm sure they're auditing some of those contracts. I know Abby just sent me a contract for the Bridge of Faith.
Yeah.
They all have to sign it, make sure it's all good to go, and these are all part of the requirements by the feds. So it's not as easy as, here's $10,000.
Right.
It's a nice little check for you.
Jackie?
Actually,
was
if
gonna-
I, if I may, if I may
Oh, yeah.
speak through you
Sure,
on
go ahead.
the comment on the invoice. Additional single audit billing is relative to the fact that the town has traditionally had 3 to 4 grant programs required for testing annually, which is what traditional audit engagement price was set for fiscal year '22.
Yeah.
The required number of major programs we had to test under federal uniform guidelines jumped up to 6 grants, which significantly increased the time and effort to perform the single audit,
Right.
and ARPA was included in that.
Right.
And I'm sure the other one was what I was going to say is the CARES Act, because there was a huge portion of funds allocated to that. And that would be my next assumption, since those were the only 2 big federal grants that were added. Huge spending programs.
When it came to the auditor, and then the auditor came back and suggested what grant we could recommend. He recommended a grant to pay the invoice from as far as that $5,000. He recommended ARPA because that would be the easiest one to.
Oh no,
allocate
I'm saying,
from.
but the other one they
Oh,
audited was
right.
probably the CARES.
Probably, but
Yeah.
he just targeted, he just said ARPA was one that's included that we could pay
Right.
from.
Right, right, okay,
Yeah,
He
CARES you can't
didn't
spend it
list
from.
specific which ones, but
okay. Okay, any further comments or questions? All those in favor? Okay. Good enough. Let's see here. Number 9, discuss and review the state flag and seal resolution and take any action thereon. Any thoughts on this one?
So we had talked about, at the last time when, Mr. Detmel
Yep.
did, presented his presentation,
Mhm.
that we could bring this back to, Gen Gov
Yep.
and talk about, recommending that the council, vote on a proclamation or sort of signing on, like other cities and towns
Right.
have done,
Right.
and not waiting for it to go to, to a town election, but for
Right.
the council to take action.
Right.
And I'd love to hear an update from Mr. Detmel, who is here,
Okay. Thank you for
on
coming.
what cities and towns have voted on since the last time that he presented to us.
And also, do you have recommended language for such a proclamation?
I believe that was introduced 2 or 3 months ago when the council as a whole first took it up. But I will certainly forward it to you.
Yeah, because it's not in our packet tonight. So.
And again, my name is David Detmel, and I'm not from Southbridge, so if the chair would give me permission, I'd be glad to give an update.
Absolutely.
I'm from the town of Montague, so I've traveled a little ways to be here tonight. And I would just say that for those who weren't at the council hearing when Councilor Rivas first introduced the resolution regarding the state flag and seal, that this is a subject that is now undergoing rather a historic review at the state level, for the first time in 140 years. The state is really taking a serious look at the symbolism on its state flag and seal. Let me pass that around to those in the audience who might like to see it. And the former Governor Baker, set up a special commission with 19 members, bipartisan commission, and invited onto that commission 6 indigenous leaders of indigenous nations from the Commonwealth, including the Nipmuc have a representative. And as we know, the Nipmuc are centered right here in the Southbridge, Webster, Grafton area. And they have a seat on that commission, along with the Secretary of State. And there are also leaders of the tourism and arts industries, you might say, and also historians are on that commission. And so they're really taking a serious look at it. And just last year, the Special Commission voted unanimously in December that the flag and seal that we're currently living with, which has changed many times over the last 4 centuries, should be totally revised because, quote, it is causing harm. We're looking at basically a white hand holding a colonial sword over the head of an indigenous person. There are at least 90,000 indigenous residents or citizens of the Commonwealth today, all of whose children go to the same schools, the same public schools where this symbol is taught. at the third grade level as part of the core curriculum. And it's kind of hard to teach a third grader that our state symbol is a sword being held over the head of an indigenous person and a Latin motto, peace under the sword, essentially. So the commission has recommended a total revision. It is up to the legislature to make that recommendation a reality and to actually come up with a new symbol for the state. And so toward that end, many cities and towns over the last 4 years have just voted on this same resolution language that was introduced, I think, 3 months ago here in Southbridge. And to date, there have been 75 cities and towns that have so voted in support of the work of the Special Commission and for a new symbol that to quote the legislation that set up the Special Commission, should represent the highest ideals of the Commonwealth for peace, justice, equality, inclusion, and the continuing benefits of education, with or without a state receiver. And there have been a number of cities that have so voted, city councils, and many town meetings, including last summer Sturbridge with the unanimous support of the select board, and Barry, and tomorrow night Brookfield will be voting. And next week, or a week and a half from now, it'll be West Brookfield and Oakham are also going to be voting in the second week of June. So it would be wonderful. I think it would not cost the city of Southbridge money. It would be a moral statement of support for this historic review. It does touch every city and town. Right behind the American flag here is the state flag, which Southbridge is required to, have present at every government meeting and in public buildings, and basically in the schools as well, and to teach the students this symbol. And so we're hoping that, maybe the time has come to take the sword down over the head of the indigenous person as the symbol of Massachusetts, from a tourism angle, from an arts perspective, from the perspective of basic humanity. This is the symbol of past violence. This is our history, but we are living here together now. And at least 90,000 indigenous people call Massachusetts home. And many, many more come to our educational institutions. And so maybe the time has come, and maybe the Southbridge Council can help make this happen. The time has come, perhaps, for a new symbol for our Commonwealth. That's certainly the hope of 75 cities and towns so far. Only six have turned it down. So that is the current status. And finally, the Special Commission was granted an extension on their timeline by the new governor just 2 months ago. They have until November to do some public polling. They have a little bit of money to work with to do that polling, to see what the citizens of the Commonwealth would like to see for new elements of the design. And then they are due to make their final recommendation back to the legislature, at which point the votes of each and every city and town that have gone on record will be weighed in the legislative process as this historic review comes to its completion.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, I saw Jackie, I saw you, I saw Mike. Okay, Jackie.
Thank you, Councilor Steves, through you to Mr. Detmold. First, thank you for being here tonight. I know you had to travel a long way. I appreciate it. I just want to say I wholeheartedly support this initiative. I think it's well beyond time to update our flag. We are known as a bastion of equality, and the fact that one of our symbols continues to be one of oppression is sad. My tonight, on the business before us tonight, it was not included in our packets, so it's my belief that we need to postpone this because we don't have an actual resolution in our packet. I want to actually vote on it, but we have to do it the right way.
Right.
So it would be my recommendation, Mr. Chair, that this be posted, that we have another general government meeting on this subject, and that it be that I asked you, Mr. Chair, to make sure that it be included in our packets. So that way we could have a more robust discussion, because this is great, we're having this discussion, but we don't actually have anything, unfortunately, to vote on or make recommendations on. So it kind of defeats the purpose of having this discussion. I appreciate you being here, I really
Yeah, I
do,
do
and I
too.
wholeheartedly support your effort. But I would want to actually have something for us to review, so we can actually have that discussion. So that's my
Yeah,
thoughts,
I
Mr.
thought
Chair.
I actually thought we would draft them over here, but
Yeah, I thought that would be included, but.
we can do that now. Want to?
We have one we can work from. I think it would be best to work from that, and then we can come back and be nitpicky and
Is
add
there a
extra things
sample
after.
one that other people are using?
Yes, he provided one
I
to
have it
us.
in my computer in my car, but I believe
I'm not
that it
finding
was introduced through Jasmine.
It was, but it just wasn't included in our packet this
That
time.
I'm very sorry to hear,
Yeah, me
because
too.
there was one specifically for the city of
I
South.
thought you was.
So, if we can get that for our next meeting, I think we will have something to actually start from. Because we can spend another hour and a half or on trying to craft a resolution, or we can start from the framework that's already there, that already discusses this in detail, and then go from there. I think that'd be a more useful use of this committee's time, since the effort's already been put in by Mr. Detmel and his association.
Okay, because I don't know where it is in the email, so.
Yeah.
In the email chain somewhere.
Good time to-
Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When were you out here at the town council meeting? You said you brought it with you one time?
Do you have
Is it
it
in our packet?
in your notes? I believe it was in March.
Alright,
Something
I'm
like
just
that,
looking.
yeah.
It was the beginning of March.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. It was sometime in March.
All right, I'm just looking.
Thank you.
While he's looking, can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
When they do decide that we're going to change the flag, and I'm 100% in favor of changing the flag, how is that going to be done? Or is everybody going to vote on the new flag, or?
So many states are in a process of review of their flags right now, as it turns out. According to a recent article in the Washington Post, there's at least 20 that are undergoing review. And the most recent that has changed their flag is Utah. But I'm most familiar with what happened in Mississippi 3 years ago, following the murder of George Floyd. And Mississippi was the last state in the South that was still showing the
That's
Confederate
right.
stars and bars as
Right.
their state
You said
symbol.
that, yeah.
And the governor took it down in the summer of 2020 and told the legislature, you have 3 months to come up with a new symbol, and they came up with a beautiful magnolia flag. How is this going to happen in Massachusetts? I cannot say, but more and more cities and towns are demanding action, asking their state senators and state representatives to make this happen. There will, we very much hope, be a recommendation showing, presenting new artwork, a possible new design to the legislature. But this is state law, that the state flag currently looks the way it does, and it has ever since 1898, has not changed, and the legislature needs to make that change. It could happen even as soon as next year. There need not be a long delay. It took Mississippi only about 3 months to do this when they it took them 20 years to talk about it in Mississippi, more than that. But when they finally decided to do it, they did it within about 3 to 4 months. I just want to make one more comment that I forgot to say, that prior to the introduction of the resolution at, I believe, one of the March meetings.
March 27th.
Yeah, there you go. A public informational meeting was held at the Jacob Edwards Library, which was covered in the press thanks to thanks to Gus, basically. And it was also covered in the local cable and available on local cable still. And we went door to door with bilingual leaflets similar to the ones that were just handed out, and handed out 500 of those door to door in Southbridge. So there has been notice of this resolution in the press and door to door. Just so I have that on record.
Okay, I've got a list developing, so I've got Mike, Jasmine, Jackie, and then George. Mike.
All right, thank you. I'm not necessarily opposed to this. I was just wondering, how do indigenous people feel about this? Has a poll been taken of them?
through you, Mr. Chair, I would answer by saying that when the special commission was set up, the language of the enabling legislation behind the commission required that 6 of the 19 seats, not a majority, be reserved for leaders of indigenous nations within the current borders of the Commonwealth. And the tribal nations themselves chose the representation. And in 3 cases, they are tribal chair people. Chairman Brian Whedon from the Mashpee Wampanoag, the largest tribe on Cape Cod, the federally recognized tribe on Cape Cod, federally recognized tribe on Martha's Vineyard, the chairwoman of the Aquinnah Wampanoag, and the chairwoman of the Herring Pond Wampanoag from Plymouth are all seated there. And so if you're looking for leadership and representation of indigenous people, you've got it on the commission. And from the Nipmuc, who are our closest indigenous brothers and sisters or neighbors here, you have Brittany Wally from the Grafton Hassanamisko Nipmuc, a state-recognized tribe. I'm very sorry to say that the Chippewa band, which is really local to Southbridge, in fact, one of their council members lives in Southbridge and has been following this as it proceeds through the council hearing. And I hope will come and speak finally at the last council meeting to take this up, the next council meeting to take this up. Her name is Liz Coldwin Santana Kaiser. And I would just say to you that I have yet to meet an indigenous leader or even an indigenous person in Massachusetts who has said to me that they would like to continue to see the sword over their head as the symbol of our state.
Right.
And in fact, it has been a unanimous push by the indigenous leaders on the commission to gain a consensus on the commission. It took them some time to do that this needs to be changed. It took them several months, and then they wound up with a 19-member yes vote on that. So if that answers your question, you've got the leaders of the tribal nations, the Massachusetts Nation, the Wampanoag, several of their tribal bands, and the Nipmuc, and they're all saying the same. It's time for a change. And they've actually been pushing for this for 50 years that I know of, and probably longer.
Probably longer. Okay, Jackie. I'm sorry, not Jackie, Jasmine, you're next.
Yeah,
And
I
then-
mean, I've met some of the leaders that Mr. Detmel mentioned, and in speaking with them, they were feeling encouraged that we were going to be discussing this topic, and especially thinking about tribal members who live in our community and who are subjected to seeing this symbol across our state, and thinking about how we want to support everyone in our community. If that, again, and we talked about, to our community, Puerto Rican Americans also have indigenous heritage, and that is something that is offensive to us as well. And thinking about supporting our indigenous brothers and sisters in this community who have to see that and be children in school learning about the symbol and thinking how that impacts our young people in school. And I know recently we had asked Mr. Detmer to come into Old Sturbridge Academy and talk to students, first graders who were studying the state symbol, and they were challenged to come up with new designs for the state seal. And if first graders can get it, then the rest of us adults should be able to get it. They understood why that symbol needed to change, and they understood that their classmates who belong to communities that are represented, in the flag, that they wanted to support their classmates. And if our first graders can understand this, and I think as adults, we should be able to understand that we want to support people in our community who are feeling oppressed and, and feeling like they're not being represented.
Okay, I've got Jackie and George. Jackie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I just wanted to reiterate on the process. What would happen is they'll present this to the state legislature.
Right.
Then the state legislature will take it up, the subcommittee, all that stuff. If it gets passed, it'll go to the governor, be signed, and then it's either done there, or if there's an initiative petitioned by citizens of the Commonwealth to have it put on the ballot because they want to challenge the law, then it'll go on the ballot, and then that will be the final stage of it. But that's where that process is at this point,
Okay.
to put it in blunt terms.
Yep. George?
I'm not opposed to this idea. I'm 68 years old, and I never knew what the symbol meant for. I can honestly tell you, I have no memory recollection of being taught it in school.
Mm-hmm.
I'm amazed at the amount of kids out there today with the way society is and the diversity of the community we have. There's still so many youth that have no clue what that symbol stands for.
That's true.
Now, there was a point in time that for me, the symbol of the bow and the arrow being the way it was to prepare and be ready to feed their family by hunting. That's my thought of this was as I grew up. I never looked at that symbol as being wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Truthfully, the sword,
Yeah.
I have no memory. I can't tell you that's on that flag because I don't know. Because growing up, the symbol wasn't important to us, I guess, back in the day.
Right.
They didn't teach it. So it was more important on how we were as a community, how we treat people. You know, those kind of things was more important growing up. My father was an immigrant. He came to this country, and he got his citizenship by going to war with the United States. And he was French Canadian. And I think today he would have a hard time with the way things are going because of what he did for this country and the reason behind this country. I realized back in the day, in the 40s, it was totally different. My father rode in the back of the bus. He got beat up. He told us the story because he went in the back of the bus. He was at Fort Bragg. He went into a restaurant that was for colored people only, and they wouldn't serve him. But that's how we were brought up. Prejudice. That you keep your prejudice to yourself and you treat people with respect. So when I looked at the flag, it wasn't until this that I all the symbols and what it stands for. I would just hope that if this has gone to the initiative ballots in the towns that you were dealing with or sent to town meetings, do the people have a choice? I think it's important that the people make that choice on this, and it's too late to put it on the ballot now because we have a future election coming in. But I really would hope that council looks to see what people say and how they feel with the change. I believe something needs to be done, absolutely, but I think we need to educate more too. Thank you.
Okay. Dave?
Just real quick, maybe a little synopsis. It's interesting, you have 65, 70 communities that have already adopted, right?
Yep.
Or sent at least a letter of support for the change of the flag. Did you mention 6 communities?
Yes.
This is an MCAS test, so you get to actually leave this building if you, lost your answer. But those 6 communities, what was the common theme and who were they?
North Brookfield and Munson are 2 of them, very close by.
Hmm.
Then Harwich, Rowley, Hawley, that's 5. Remember I'll tell you the other before I leave. But the common theme there, more and more, and some of the votes have been very close. In Irving, it passed by 1 vote, town meeting. We're going right to the people. I mean, in town meeting, there is no pure form of democracy,
Correct.
to my knowledge. And city councils, you're one step removed from the people, but they elect you, And, we never try to bring it up by surprise. I really have gone door to door throughout this town myself. And we've held a public hearing. I'll be glad to do another. If the council wishes to do it in such a way that the public can be invited to testify before they vote, I think it would be very educational to hear from the community on this. Referendums have not happened yet. But town meetings and city councils have really taken the pulse of their communities. And, the common theme that comes up is you are trying to change our history. And what I often find the response to be, or a good response to be, is unfortunately, we cannot change this history. This is a symbol that accurately, according to, let's say, to Jim Peters, who is the current chair of, or director of the Massachusetts Commission on Indian Affairs, state agency, has said in public hearings, this is an accurate representation of the past, genocide against our people. And you can't change that history. What you can change going forward is the future of our relationships that we all live together now.
Right.
Okay? And a long time has passed since King Philip's War. And maybe we could think of a symbol of more harmony to teach our children.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going through the packet in my email trying to find it. We never actually got a copy of the resolution in our packet.
No, we didn't.
We never did. I mean, it refers to your presentation on that night, but there's nothing in there.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
So,
me too.
There was miscommunication on my part with Councilor Rivas on that, which I take responsibility for. Before I leave tonight, I will email it right to you, to both of you, to the chair and Councilor
That
Rivas,
works.
so that you'll have it for your next governmental subcommittee meeting.
Thank
That's
you.
a good time.
That works. Maureen?
Hi, Dave. I'm curious, and I might have asked you this at the library when I first saw you, but what would a new flag look like?
Okay, and that is
Or is that like beyond this?
something that I have never taken an opinion on myself. I've never stated a position on myself, other than to say that it took them 37 years of pushing, and it took 32 cities and towns voting in favor before they set up that special commission and invited 6 native leaders to sit with, like I say, Republican and Democrat state legislators. And whatever that commission comes up with, I'm in favor of, whatever it might be.
Okay.
There have been
So
some,
it's just-
great suggestions.
This is just changing this.
This
and-
needs to
And
change.
the new thing, okay, is,
But some of the ideas that have been come up with so far through the commission's process, and they are now funded and they have enough time to do some public polling, and I'm sure we're only beginning to scratch the surface of what the ideas are out there.
So they're gonna put Tom Brady on there?
Yeah, they could do.
Hope not.
Apparently there's a state seal that they put up in the harbor in Boston a while ago. No, they've mentioned the white pine, they've mentioned cranberry, they've mentioned the shape of Cape Cod itself, or I come from the western part of the state. We like the idea of the tallest point is Mount Greylock.
I like
So,
that.
And that's named after an Indian
That's a
chief
good
who was
one.
never
I see.
defeated in battle. So
So-
there have been some good suggestions.
Yeah.
Let's see what the rest of the Commonwealth would like to see.
That's good.
sounds good, thank you.
Okay. Jackie and then Scott.
All right, if Councilor Lawson wants to make his comment, I'm actually gonna move to postpone, so if you would like to go ahead, Councilor,
Go
make
ahead,
your
Scott.
point.
Yep. Very sorry you don't have the resolution language in front of you.
Yeah, me too.
You will in about 5 minutes.
Okay. Scott?
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm gonna go against the grain tonight. I'm not so much against change. It's just, in education, when you learned about slavery, it was a bad thing. But because there are symbols and books and different documents to give you that education, that we don't go back and make the same mistake, that's part of our education. When you see a sword, do I condone violence? No. But when the country was formed, there was violence. There was a civil war. There was the French and Indian War. There were different things that went on, barbaric things in our past that were just wrong. And the thing is, if we erase it all, what are the youth, what are they going to learn by anything? Are we going to take the pioneer, the gun out of the pioneer at Salvage High? Because, you know, guns don't kill, people do. But swords don't kill, people do. So, I mean, I'm sitting there, I did ask Sid Hazzard, who's an Indian, and he goes, what the hell are they taking it off the flag for? What have you learned? And I turned around, the guy's 85 years old, and he's a burly older guy, and he voiced his opinion to me. And I didn't say anything for or against, because I want to hear everybody talk about it. I need the public to come, hey, what do you want me to do on this? He's a representative form of government here. You know, I don't want my personal opinion. I want the opinion of my residents to vote for me. And it's a 2-1 situation. I'm not saying, oh, I'm against it or I'm for it. I'm just, my brain is spinning in different directions on why, what's the pros and cons of taking it off, what's the pros and cons of leaving it on. So that's where I'm standing. I mean, it's very easy to turn around and just jump on the wagon, let's go forward. We're all set. So I just, food for thought, that's all that is.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Anybody else have comments before we have a motion? You want to say something?
I'd love to, I've taken too much of your time, but I'd love to reply just ever so briefly through you, Mr. Chair, to the comment just made,
Okay.
if time permits.
Yeah. We do have one more item on the agenda. Well, 2 more items. Okay.
Maybe I should talk to you outside the meeting, but basically, there is a bill in the legislature right now, and in many states around us, this same topic is coming up, to introduce the topic of Native American history at the appropriate grade level in all our public schools.
Mm-hmm.
And this symbol of a Native American in buckskins, you know, Native people can still wear that regalia at certain occasions, but they live and dress like the rest of us today.
Right.
They live in our communities, bring them into our schools, have them teach their cultural values, which are, in my opinion, wonderful ecological cultural values. We could learn a lot from modern day Native people who live right here.
Completely agree.
Just removing the symbol does not mean that the history is gone, but you might see that the actual people who live in our cities and towns come forward and be much more prone to dialogue if this symbol, of which so many of them feel is oppressive, were removed. And it would be great if they would feel free and be welcomed in our schools. I think it would be of great educational value to our kids. So that's a brief reply.
Okay.
And I could talk to you more later. I'd love to. Thank you.
Jackie?
I would also say that there's a way to recognize history without giving it a place of reverence. Being on the flag is a place of reverence. It can be in a museum, it can be in a history books, doesn't have to be on our flag. That's the argument to make. If you want to know our history, we can know our history. There's
And we should know
important times and places to know our history. But when it comes to the symbol of our state, that needs to change with the times, and we can have the history be in history and have the symbol that our kids look up to be something a little bit more inclusive. And with that,
If I may quick,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to comment that as far as history goes, I think part of what we need to be doing when it comes to history is making history itself more inclusive. I mean, because I know when I went through high school, we talked very little about Native Americans. We probably glossed over the King Philip's War. I don't recall having anything about the rest of Native American history when I was in high school. I've read a lot about it since then because I wanted to. And I completely agree with what you were saying about the fact that we can learn so much in our society from Native attitudes, honestly, not just here, but around the world. And obviously, the Native Americans are our neighbors, very literally, and we can learn best from our neighbors, because we need to become citizens of this place, because we are here. And we treat ourselves as our society treats this place as something to exploit, and we have to remember that we're here, we're part of this place, we need to live here. And that's all I have.
All right, I move to postpone discussion of this till the next posted general government meeting, pending the.
Is that one?
the inclusion of the resolution in our packet.
Do we want to set
Second.
one?
Yes, I think we should set a date.
What do you want to do? What do you want to do?
Yeah, what date works for everybody?
Let's see, the next meeting is the 7th. Do you want to do, it's the 5th, do you want to do like the 7th? That's a Wednesday.
Can we have all discussion, like, it's hard to hear what's going on, because there's discussion happening in the back of the room, Mr. Chairman.
I think we can do, 7 sounds good to me.
The 7th, Wednesday the 7th? Works for you? Does that work for you, Martina?
Trying to think.
Is the-
I
what
know-
day is that?
I know the,
Wednesday.
Wednesday the 7th at 7 p.m.?
I cannot do Tuesday, and a week after that is really busy.
So Wednesday is fine for me. It's Wednesday the 7th.
Wednesday works for me.
Wednesday should be okay.
Wednesday,
Okay.
okay. You want to do 6, 6:30, 7? I know you're usually.
7.
6, which is a problem.
6:30 or 7.
6:30,
Seven.
7, okay, 7 works. Okay.
That way, if there needs to be like another quick meeting beforehand, there's the ability to have that. Setting times for 6:30 can be a little.
Okay, so we'll set it for 7 on Wednesday. Okay, that's easier, right? Okay, all those in favor? Good.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Dave.
Drive careful.
Yep. And
We have 2 more.
okay. Okay. Discuss review. I hate the way this was phrased. I did specifically have asked her to state 2 specific policies, not just overall town policies in general. Or at least, do you have the?
I don't have
Is
the-
there an updated version? Because the
No,
version
she
I
didn't update
have
it.
has old town policies. I specifically asked to have it changed to be the last 2, which is 14 and 13.
Because I do have a question about the last one. Because I thought that was never passed, and yet it says in here that it was passed.
As far as I know, it was. So
If that's the case, then why have we been voting? I thought that was
I
never passed.
I don't know either, to be honest with you. I thought we did pass it at the council level, and then I don't know what the hell happened to it.
Transferring
To be honest with
capital
you.
expenditure policies, I'm pretty sure that we did not pass it. That was during, I think, your first term on the council.
No, that was much more recent than that. That was back when I was, actually, we devised that back when I was vice chair and Denise was chair.
No,
Yeah, no, this is.
it says it was adopted in 2018.
Right.
I don't remember that. I thought it was voted down. I remember the big conversation on it. And I remember Denise Clemens was on. the
No, I
council.
remember
Yeah,
it went
she
through
was.
multiple iterations and
It
it
did.
finally did get
Yes, it did.
approved because it got shot down twice and then it came back. 'Cause I was on
Right.
the Gen Gov subcommittee when it was being reviewed at
Right,
the time.
it
It
was.
did get approved by a narrow vote at that council.
Probably 5-4.
It was a 5-4
But we
vote.
never followed this, never.
I think we followed it very briefly and then it got shelved. I don't know why.
I think the
it got
idea
shelved.
was because it was supposed to be voted on every single year to be reauthorized, and it was never reauthorized. And that's a specific part that I remember being part of discussions. We had to vote every single year, which is why Councilor Adams made the point earlier tonight that he wanted to have that discussion again. Because it is a policy we do have on the books, but since we didn't vote at the beginning of the year during the new council to reauthorize that practice, it's not been our practice.
But I think that the argument
That's
at
weird.
the time is
Why would we have
30%
done that, though?
of any
I think it
sum.
was to give the council the flexibility because our lawyer told us at the time that we didn't have the right to impose that responsibility on another council. We could have that be the policy of the town, but it was up to the council to accept it as an actual policy of the board.
But that doesn't make any sense because every other policy stands.
It was something specific to that. I
Why would we
can't,
vote
it was so
for
many years
that?
ago.
That
It was a
doesn't make
specific
sense.
instance regarding around, setting of fiscal oversight was specifically why. We didn't have the ability to limit fiscal oversight of new councils, was the rule that we got put in. We could pass this bylaw, but it would have to be re-upped every year,
If I-
or reauthorized by the council.
If I could just say one more thing.
Go ahead.
I remember the argument at the time, and I will go back and research this, but I remember the question was if you could spend the greater of 5,000 or 30% of any of the sums.
I know we changed that
And
language.
that was quite a lot of money.
We
if
had
you
an
think
issue.
about
I
it,
remember
because you
having a
would allow the
discussion with
town
that,
manager
yeah.
to transfer around without the council voting on it.
Yeah, because some departments 30%. The greater being 30% means you could transfer like $300,000 around the police
Without us
department.
even knowing about it.
We had a problem with that.
Yes,
And that was,
we did.
That's what I recall.
that was something Ron was trying to slide his way through. Apparently, he put his own language back in the policy book after we changed it. That's what it looks like.
Well,
Because
think
I
this-
know we changed that
I think
language.
we need more research before you take any action on it.
I agree with Councilor McCann on this. And it would be nice to have somebody from the town office
Yes.
to be here to have this discussion.
Any thoughts on that, Christine?
Because we don't
Have
have
you
any
chance
of
to
the
look at
people, any of the historians here to help
I haven't
provide
looked
any
at that
insight to
yet.
this. I mean, I can provide so much insight, but I only
Yeah.
can provide so
We
much.
need more information.
Yeah.
And I'd like to have like a hard copy of the,
Yeah. Yes.
the language in front of me,
Yeah.
because I can't, even if I can find it on my phone, it doesn't
It
help.
should have been included in your packet.
I don't
Because
get
it
it
wasn't
back.
made.
Yeah, that's something else. The subcommittee
That's a
members
different
haven't been
issue. They
getting.
should be getting them, because I know it's other subcommittees, citizen members are getting them.
Mhm.
Used to?
They
Used
still
to.
are. I think at DPW, the DPW gets theirs.
Mhm.
You should all be
Mm.
getting them.
You don't get one in your email, Ms. Shea?
I know I get an email all the time.
You could ask for it to be printed.
Yeah,
You can
you
just-
might.
yeah.
For her.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
what I did.
I didn't realize you were getting them.
well,
That's why I usually.
I
have
think
one
I would
person.
like to have more representation from the town here. I think we need to have more discussion. I think Ms. Shea needs a packet.
I
So
totally agree with
I'll
that.
move to postpone this to our 5th meeting.
The next two or
Second.
both of
The
them?
7th reading?
Well, there's only one item. It's all old agenda. All
It should be, I did ask her to change the agenda item. And
I thought there were two, but.
there were
I
two,
think it should
there
be-
were, did you see the original? Was it, how was
because I
it
only have
on
the original
wall?
one.
The one I have in the,
I had her send it to me. She sent it to me yesterday. Because I said I had.
you're right, you did, yeah, because I asked you, you asked me to send it, have it sent to you.
Yeah, because I don't have it. I
Yeah,
only
'cause
have the original
I mean, I would have
agenda.
asked for it if I even knew from this what it was I was going to ask for.
Right, okay.
So
Because
I just
there's
went through my whole
nothing that
email. I only have
indicates.
the original agenda in my packet. There's no other email.
Well, let me see what,
Unless it went to my
let me see what
spam.
posted. Yes.
But
It
if
just
that-
says,
if
it
that-
just says old town policies on the official posting.
On the official posting, then all right, I move that we postpone
She
this
didn't
agenda
change
item
it.
to the next meeting, and making sure that the chairman follows up to have this separated into 2 agenda items,
I did
please.
that.
Yep, I understand, but just making sure it's part of the motion. So that's my
Second?
motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?